My fiancée called off our wedding to see how committed I was. Her friends told me that if I didn't chase, I wasn't ready to get married. I didn't beg. I just canceled everything and left. When the truth came out, her whole group fell apart, and she was left without a job and alone. 3 weeks before our wedding, my ex-fiancée and her friends tried to test my allegiance. I didn't follow. They said it was a failure and everything went wrong. Let me start from the beginning before I get into the chaos. My name is Noah. I'm 32 years old, and I was born and raised in Washington. I've lived in Seattle for the past 10 years. I am a security engineer at a company that makes financial technology. Most of the time, the office is calm, the schedules are predictable, and there are a lot of problems that no one notices until they break. I like to repair things, plan ahead, and not make a scene. My family is small and stable, and we only become boisterous on holidays. Nothing out of the ordinary, quite average. Camille was not typical in the greatest manner possible. She is 29 years old and works as a brand partnerships lead for a lifestyle company. One of those jobs where your whole self is involved in your work. She had a lot of energy and wanted to make life look planned and curated. I never cared about that. It made our days seem better. She adored being in the spotlight. I liked putting up the structure behind them. We met at a birthday party for a friend of ours at Gasworks Park. She spoke quickly. I nodded and listened a lot. That worked somehow. A few dates evolved into months. Years after months. We were in sync without even trying by the time we reached year 3. Our rituals were simple but strong. We'd walk to the same bakery every Sunday to get coffee and a pastry to share. We both went to the gym together, but she pushed the pace while I stuck to my usual circuits. On Tuesdays, she did her content nights, which involved moving furniture and lighting around to film sponsored stuff. If she asked, I would patch cords or hold reflectors. I had my own strange habits as well. My vacation planning spreadsheets, the color-coded columns for wedding costs, and the packing lists that she made fun of but still used. We were good for each other. She made things more exciting. I added structure. When others laughed about how different we were, she would laugh and remark, "He keeps me grounded." I would respond, "She keeps things moving." Felt true. It seemed stable. But her group of friends was a different story. They termed their group the Coven. Partly kidding, partly serious. 5 other women who met once a week, had group chats that never stopped buzzing, and on a yearly girls' reset trip that was all about spa photographs and matching clothing. Sienna was in charge. She was charming, had been married twice, and always said she was a relationship strategist. As if she had come up with the idea. If she uttered something with enough confidence, it could seem like knowledge. Marlo was married, but you wouldn't know it from the way she complained about her husband online for every little thing. Tess had a boyfriend for a long time, but she only saw him as another item to her look. Rory yelled about how much he disliked the thought of getting married and said that guys were always works in progress. June was a soft life influencer who really thought that a partner's primary focus should be making sure they were comfortable. I always thought they were over the top. Not harsh, just that everything was a show. They talked like they were narrating a show, getting each other excited in ways that didn't seem real to me. But Camille looked happy with them. And I wasn't the kind of guy who got jealous or told others who they could be close to. I did what I always do. I nodded, was courteous, and stayed away. In the meantime, our lives went on. I asked her to marry me after 3 years of dating while we were hiking up Rattlesnake Ledge. It was a simple moment with a clean sky and no staging. She sobbed, said yes, and right away started thinking about color palettes and mood boards. I began to plan budgets and schedules. A year later, we were getting ready for the wedding. We had lists tacked to the fridge, files full of vendor receipts, and sample decorations all over the dining table in our flat. Camille's phone contained reminders for how many days were left. My spreadsheet could probably run the whole event by itself. Everything was in order. The venue was booked, the photographer was booked, and the guest list was set. It finally felt like the end was near. Then came the night that changed everything. 3 Saturdays before the wedding, she came home from social night, perched on the edge of our couch and said, "I think we need to pause everything." Looking back, the cracks didn't show up abruptly. A few months before everything broke apart, They came in quiet, steady shifts. There wasn't anything huge enough to call out on its own, yet each one modified the mood a little. It all started when the coven got more involved in planning our wedding. At first, they were just giving Camille ideas for gowns or decorations, which I expected. But then Sienna started talking about our connection. Camille told me one night that Sienna had asked her if I was emotionally forceful enough, as if she were judging me for a contest. When I asked Camille what that meant, she shrugged and said that Sienna was just frightened that I wasn't fiery. I didn't sure what to do with that because I've never been fiery before. A week later, June informed Camille that she should never marry a man who wouldn't break apart if she left. Camille said it to me again, as if it were something I should think about. She stated it like it was no big deal while she was tying her shoes before we went to the gym. I blinked because I didn't know how to answer without appearing defensive. I let it go. It was Rory who made it a joke. She liked to say things like, "Better test the foundation before signing forever." Everyone would laugh and Camille would too. But the way she looked at me made the back of my neck feel tense. I didn't want to make a big deal out of nothing, so I acted normal. Then it was time to arrange the bachelor and bachelorette parties. My pals made things easy. Hike during the day, then eat. Nothing crazy. They asked me what I wanted and did what I said. At the same time, Camille's side became a show. I wasn't even part of the planning talk. She stated it was a surprise, but the way she worded it made it sound more like a show. She kept changing the subject and saying, "Don't worry about it." Every time I asked a simple inquiry like where they were staying, the costs kept going up. She would tell me about fresh totals I needed to cover, but she didn't go into much detail about the plans. It felt uncomfortable that they were keeping things secret, but I let it go. I thought that's just how they did things. Camille started making jokes about wanting one last summer as a single person about that time. She stated it with a smile, frequently while choosing out clothes or talking to her friends in a group chat. She would say, "This is my last summer to be selfish." I would be at the table going over vendor confirmations and hearing her say it over the phone as if I weren't there. I didn't resist it, but it stayed with me. The secrecy got worse, too. Her phone used to be unlocked and the screen was facing up on the table. Then, without warning, it was always face down with a new passcode that she never mentioned. She would leave it unlocked on speaker and forget about it every now and then when a voice note was playing. She'd explain she had work to do, but it usually happened on nights when I knew the coven would be together. She would respond, "Why are you being weird?" if I asked her about it, which made me stop. One night, I accidentally heard her group chat voice notes while she was taking a shower. She had left the phone unlocked and playing music on the restroom counter. The light on her phone came on and the speaker was loud. I heard her add, "At least he cried when she said she would leave." I didn't know who she was talking about, but it was unsettling to hear her compare myself to other fiancés. I didn't talk to her. I convinced myself it wasn't worth it to fight because I was already stressed out about the wedding. Then there were the mentions of Adrian. She talked about him like he was an old coworker or someone she barely knew, but she brought him up more than once. While we were folding laundry, she commented, "Adrian's been checking on me lately. He understands because he went through marital pressure once before." Always presented in a casual fashion, but never randomly. She chose times when we were both under a lot of stress. Fighting over the guest list, scheduling difficulties, and things like that. I could see that she was looking at my face to see how I would react. I stayed calm. I said, "I'm glad you have someone to talk to." Nothing more. I was upset, but I wasn't going to act envious. One of the clearest times I knew something was wrong was when I was home alone at night. I was at the dining table going over the seating charts and making sure that all of the guests who hadn't RSVP'd yet were still coming. Camille was watching TikTok next to me with the sound turned down. Every few seconds, I'd hear bits of a female energy coach talking about how to have a good relationship. Make him work for your stability. Withdrawal makes you want something. Don't marry a man until he shows that he will battle for you. I made fun of them a little. You do know that half of these instructors are 23 and live with roommates, right? I thought she would laugh, but instead she lost it. You don't understand. These women are trying to keep me safe. Then she started scrolling again. I didn't push it. I just kept working on the seating chart until it was finished. The last warning sign came on the day we got the paperwork for our marriage license. We spent the morning filling out papers and checking documentation. The kind of chores that seem important even when they are boring. After that, we had lunch with Sienna and two other people who just happened to be nearby, which I didn't believe for a second. Sienna hugged Camille for a long time after we ate, longer than usual. She grasped her shoulders, looked her in the eye and said, "Don't marry potential. Make him prove it." Camille laughed it off, but she didn't say anything. That was the part that really got to me. Not what you said. Sienna always had something to say, but then there was stillness. 3 weeks before the wedding, we finally finished everything on our list. We had just strolled around the place one last time. The coordinator told us where the tables would go, how the lights would work, and when the ceremony would start. Camille snapped pictures from all sides. I checked the vendors' arrival times on my phone. It seemed like the serenity before a great change in life, the positive sort. Earlier that week, I had my suit fitted. Fit perfectly. No changes are needed. Camille made a joke about how I was the easiest groom to deal with. The list of guests was set in stone. I had a spreadsheet that kept track of every RSVP for the 200 guests that were attending. All that's left to do is wait for the day to come. Camille went to Coven night that Saturday. She kissed him quickly and said they were simply catching up and finishing up some plans for her bachelorette party. She looked fine when she walked out the door. No tension, no clues. I used the opportunity to sort through our wedding documents and set aside money. We still owed. She came home around 10 o'clock. As soon as she walked in, I knew something was wrong. She kept her jacket on. She didn't put her phone on the counter like she always does. She strolled up to the couch and sat down deliberately, as if she needed to aim before she spoke. She said, "Noah, I think we need to stop everything." At first, the statements didn't make any sense. Pause what? I asked her what she meant as I sat across from her. She stared at me and then at her hands. "I love you," she continued, "but I'm not sure I'm ready. I need to breathe. I need to remember who I am." My mind went blank. I didn't shout or ask for anything. I just looked at her and waited for more. She continued on going. "I'm gonna stay with Sienna for a bit to get things straight. It's not your fault. I just need some room." It was clear right away that she had practiced the lines because it sounded like a script. I inquired, "What changed?" She shrugged, which didn't imply anything. "I've been feeling this way for a while," she remarked. "I didn't want to burden you with it. I need to figure out if I'm making the right decision about my life." I asked for specifics. What exactly was she unsure about? She kept giving vague answers about alignment and personal clarity. It sounded like someone else's vocabulary. I asked her point blank if this was about another guy. She shook her head quickly. "No, absolutely not. This is about me." There was no anger in her voice, just something rehearsed. She told me she'd already packed a bag and that Sienna was expecting her. Then she stood, kissed the top of my head like I was a kid, and said, "Please trust I'm doing what I need for both of us." She left our apartment like she was going out for groceries, not like she was canceling a wedding. The next morning, I had to call my parents. My mom kept asking me if I was sure I heard her right. My dad kept saying, 3 weeks? 3 weeks. Like the number was personally offensive. My younger brother didn't say much, just offered to come over if I needed help. I called my best man. He let out a long breath and asked if I wanted him to tell the rest of the groomsmen. I told him yes. Hearing myself say it felt surreal. Within the first week, I started canceling everything. The venue said the deposit was non-refundable. The florist had already ordered everything. The photographer had a cancellation clause. The caterer charged a percentage. It added up fast. I kept my voice steady on every call. Camille's parents called that afternoon. They were furious, mostly at her, but some irritation leaked toward me like I should have seen it coming. Her mom cried and kept saying she was embarrassed. Her dad apologized for the wasted money, but I could tell his pride was bruised. That first week felt like living inside a muted room. I went to work, came home, and sat on the couch until it got dark. I'd end up staring at the ceiling around 3 a.m. I unable to get my mind to follow a straight line. I wasn't miserable exactly, just stunned. By day 5, I realized I needed to protect myself. Not emotionally, practically. I removed Camille from our shared utilities so I wouldn't be stuck paying for 2 people. I asked the bank to place temporary holds and withdrawal restrictions on our joint savings until we could divide the funds. I updated my emergency contact at work to my brother. None of it felt petty. It felt like cleaning up after a storm so the house didn't rot. Camille didn't call, didn't text, not even a "how are you?" The silence was loud, but I got used to it faster than I expected. By the second week of silence, I was budgeting. And for the first time, I saw clearly. If she never came back, I'd be fine. Almost a month after she walked out, I came home from work and found Camille sitting on the hallway floor outside my apartment door. By then, the day we were supposed to get married had already come and gone. Her knees were pulled up, makeup stray, eyes swollen like she'd been crying for hours. She stood as soon as I reached her. "Noah, please can we talk?" Her voice cracked on the last word. I unlocked the door and stepped aside. She followed me in like someone afraid I'd close it on her. She didn't sit. She paced once, then blurted, "I made a mistake. I want to make things right. We can move the wedding to a different date or get married right away. Whatever you want." It was the first time she'd said anything to me since she left. I stayed standing because sitting felt too much like letting the moment soften. "Why now?" I asked. "You wanted space. What changed?" She wiped her face with her sleeve. "I thought I needed time, but being away from you made me realize I was wrong. I love you. I want our life back." Her tone felt rehearsed again. Not stiff, just too tidy. I didn't accept that answer. "Tell me the real reason you left. Not the vague version. The truth." Camille froze. Her shoulders rose, then dropped. She sat on the edge of the couch, hands shaking slightly. "It wasn't supposed to go like this," she whispered. "It was a test." I didn't respond. I just waited. She took a long breath. "Sienna and the others. They said I needed to make sure you were committed. That before I married you, I should see how far you'd go for me." I felt something go cold in my chest. What does that mean? It was a commitment stress test. She said the phrase like she hated hearing it out loud. "They had this plan. If I left temporarily, you would show how much you wanted us. They had checkpoints." She looked down at her hands. "Day 1, I leave. Day 3, you're supposed to beg for me to come back. Day 7, a gesture, flowers or something big. Day 10, a public message about fighting for us. Day 14, you tell me you to elope if that's what it takes." I stared at her. She kept talking like she needed to empty everything before she lost her nerve. "Sienna told me if he stays calm, he's not husband material. She said that real partners fight. They don't just let you walk away. She said you needed to prove it." I let the silence stretch long enough that she had to look at me. "And Adrian?" I asked. She winced. "They told me bringing him up would activate you, trigger some competition feeling. They said if you didn't react at all, it meant you weren't invested. So you were trying to get a rise out of me." She nodded, eyes full of guilt. "I didn't want to. They said it was harmless, just part of the test." I wasn't angry yet, mostly stunned. "And the coven tracked this how?" Camille swallowed. "We have mutual friends. They were updating the group. Sienna kept asking if you'd shown up anywhere, if you were posting, if you'd sent anything to my parents. They waited for your reactions. Every checkpoint, she covered her face with her hands. None of it happened. You didn't beg. You didn't send anything. You didn't chase. They kept telling me to wait one more day, then another, and then another. I finally sat down, not next to her. Across. You were watching to see how desperate I'd get." "No," she said quickly, then deflated. "Yes, I guess. But I thought it would show something meaningful. I didn't realize how it sounded until nothing happened. I didn't raise my voice. I gave you exactly what you asked for. You told me you needed space, so I gave you space. Apparently that meant I failed." She reached out a little like she expected me to take her hand. I didn't. She let her arm drop. "Noah, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have listened to them. I shouldn't have done any of it. I just want to fix this. Please, we can start over." Everyone makes mistakes. I shook my head slowly. You didn't test my commitment. You tested my tolerance for disrespect. She broke then, crying openly, apologizing between breaths, saying she regretted everything, saying she'd cut off the coven, saying she was blinded by stress. I love you, she said again. We can recover from this. We're meant to be together. No, I said one word, steady. I'm not doing this. I'm not marrying someone who would put me through that. She stood up fast like she couldn't process the answer. Can you just think about it? Not decide right now. We can go to counseling or take a break. Or no, I repeated. I'm done. She cried harder and slid down onto the carpet like her legs gave out. For almost an hour, she alternated between begging and making promises she couldn't guarantee. When begging didn't work, she tried bargaining. We'll elope, she said again. Just you and me. I stayed calm. Camille, you need to leave. She shook her head instantly. I'm not leaving without a real conversation. This is the real conversation, I said. If you don't go, I'll call security. It took another 20 minutes of back and forth before she stood up, grabbed her bag, and walked to the door. She paused before opening it. This isn't over, she whispered. Sienna says people come around once they realize what they lost. She left without looking back. Around midnight, my phone buzzed with a number I didn't recognize. Just one message. You're making a mistake. Sienna says, you'll come around. I blocked it instantly. The next morning, from her regular number, Camille sent a long text recapping what she had told me. She spelled out the commitment stress test and listed each checkpoint in writing. I saved it. Blocking Camille's burner number didn't slow her down. It only shifted the form her messages took. Within 2 days, she started what I now think of as Wave 1, the love bombing phase. It began with texts from unknown numbers, then emails, then voice notes. I stayed silent. Next were the deliveries at my office. A receptionist forwarded a bouquet to my desk with a card that said, I still choose you every day. After that first bouquet, I asked reception to refuse any future deliveries and had building security noted. That same afternoon, a package showed up outside my apartment door. Inside were photos from our engagement trip tied with ribbon, plus a note that said, we were supposed to be forever. I boxed everything and disposed of it. I wasn't keeping anything that tied me to whatever this had become. But Camille didn't stop. She escalated. That's when Wave 2 began. The ambush phase. The first time she waited outside my apartment building. I walked out to head to work and found her standing near the entrance in a sweatshirt and leggings, looking cold and restless. We need to talk, she said. You can't keep shutting me out. I already told you no, I replied. Please go home. She reached for my arm. I stepped back and kept walking. Per our building's policy to remove non-residents at a resident's request. Security noticed and escorted her off the property a few minutes later. After that, she started popping up unannounced until she finally showed up at my parents' house. The moment that pushed things from uncomfortable to concerning happened at my parents' house. They live 30 minutes outside the city, and Camille showed up unannounced one afternoon asking to speak with them. My mom called me right after it happened. She told me Camille had asked if they could help talk sense into me. My mom told her firmly, no, this is between you and Noah. My dad came to the door too and told her she needed to leave immediately. She cried, apologized to them, then left. After that, she returned to digital tactics. Wave 3, the victim post. Camille started posting vague quotes about how people abandon you when you're imperfect and real love forgives. Her captions mentioned doing the work and owning your mistakes, but the subtext was obvious. The coven filled her comments with encouragement. Don't give up, babe. Fight for your love, for your men don't understand emotional pressure. I ignored all of it. Still, seeing my name implied in those posts wasn't pleasant. Around this time, something shifted within the coven. I didn't see the drama directly, but one night I got a message on LinkedIn. Yes, LinkedIn from Tess. Her message read, I'm reaching out privately. I told her this was a bad idea. Sienna pushed everything. I'm sorry things got out of hand. I replied back, thanks for letting me know. I'm taking care of things on my end, and that's it. I wasn't getting involved in their troubles. I didn't want to be part of their group fallout. While all this chaos spiraled around me, my own life quietly stabilized. I wasn't dating. I wasn't looking. I just focused on rebuilding the routines that had taken a hit. I started training consistently again. Morning workouts before work, weekend runs along the waterfront. I slept better after weeks of restless nights. At work, a big security review I'd led finished successfully, and management gave me a role upgrade. Basically, a small promotion. It wasn't something I celebrated loudly, but it felt good to accomplish something clean and independent of the mess Camille had dragged me into. I kept to myself and slowly felt my baseline return. I didn't miss her. I missed the version of life I thought we had, but not her. Not the real her that had shown up at the end. Then Camille found a new angle. One Friday night, I went out with a coworker friend. Just a simple dinner and walking around the city. It was nothing romantic. I wasn't even thinking about relationships. We ran into two people from the company, talked for a bit, then went home separately. The next afternoon, my phone lit up with a message from another unknown number. I didn't open it immediately. When I finally did, it was a wall of text from Camille. "So, you replaced me already. You never loved me. I can't believe you moved on while I'm here trying everything to fix us." I stared at the message for a few seconds. I didn't respond. Instead, I blocked that number too. Whatever she thought she saw, or whatever someone told her turned into her next obsession. And the spiral hadn't even hit its worst point yet. The turning point came when Camille posted another vague message online. Something about being abandoned after one mistake with a sad emoji. The comments were all sympathy. A few people hinted that I'd given up too easily. Someone even wrote, "Men don't understand emotional effort." No one tagged me, but everyone knew who she was talking about. I hadn't said anything until then because I didn't want to bring our private problems into the open. But at that point, having her change the story meant letting her drag my name through the muck she made. I finally wrote my own post. I wrote it in a calm way, like I would write a report at work. No name-calling or drama. Simply the order of events. I just told her that she had called off the wedding 3 weeks before it was supposed to happen as part of a commitment test her friends had proposed. I told them how the test worked. She goes away, waits for me to break down and chase her, and then rates my reaction like it's a game. I wrote that she later confessed to everything. I supplied copies of her messages that showed her detailing the checkpoints and admitting that Sienna was involved. I made the names blurry except for hers and mine. After that, I ended it with one sentence. I'm not telling her this to hurt her. I'm sharing it because what others are saying about me isn't true. I tapped post, closed the app, and left it alone. My phone started buzzing within an hour. Friends of both of us shared it. Former coworkers got in touch. People said things like, "What kind of test is that? This is not love. It's manipulation." A few people who had met Camille sent me private messages stating, "This makes a lot more sense." Over the next week, the post spread to community groups and friend circles. I didn't even know we were on the same page. I turned off my notifications, but every time I looked, there were more comments and people expressing they were delighted someone finally told the truth about what happened. Then something happened that I didn't expect. People who knew Sienna spoke up. One person said, "She did this to her second ex-husband. Same structure, different excuses." Another person said, "She calls these tests filters. She bragged about them." Someone else said, "She used to tell women to pretend to be absent to test loyalty." It was like a floodlight finally touched the pattern. That afternoon, Camille made all of her accounts private. The posts went away. The stories went away. Her meticulously crafted online identity went down almost at away. A few hours later, I got a short message from her phone number. Not a fake one, but a real one. "I can't believe you would treat me like this. You didn't need to do that." I didn't answer. Camille's parents got in touch with her separately 2 days following the post. Her mother called me first. She didn't sound angry. She sounded like she had too much on her plate. "I'm so sorry," she said. "I didn't know it was that organized. I thought she was just scared. I'm sorry she treated you that way." She inquired how I was doing, said I didn't deserve any of that, and praised me for being polite in my message. Later, her dad sent her an email. He wasn't upset. He was more like a manager who was let down. I taught her better than this. I'm embarrassed that she let her pals treat her relationship like a science project. I admire how you dealt with everything. When they admitted the truth, it locked a door I didn't know was still open. Things got worse for Camille at work over the next few weeks as she tried to get things back on track. A lot of people thought about her employment. Brand relationships don't do well when the person behind them doesn't seem trustworthy. Some of our clients who are also in her orbit contacted her company to ask if their representative was engaged in the viral article. Some of the tasks she was supposed to work on were surreptitiously given to other team members. She didn't get fired, but she did lose a couple big accounts in the weeks that followed. People at work stopped talking to her in public. Reputation damage is slow, but it happens all the time. At the same time, the coven broke up from the inside. Tessa's boyfriend saw the pattern and ended things. Tessa then cut Sienna off. Marla's husband looked at the stunts again and then left. Rory went public and called Sienna out for treating relationships like experiments. Sienna wrote a long post about testing to explain herself, but then she deleted it. A few days later, she deleted her whole profile. The coven was over. Camille was abruptly alone, with no one from her group to help her. The same friends that told her to leave me now acted like they didn't know her at all. She tried to publish some quotes about personal progress, but no one responded. Not long after, she logged off completely. For days after things calmed down, I got an email. This was the first communication from her that wasn't furious or panicked. It was lengthier and quieter than anything else she'd sent. She wrote, "I don't expect you back. I understand why you're done. I just need you to know I finally see it. I see how much I let people influence me. I see how much I hurt you trying to protect myself from something that wasn't even real. I'm sorry." I read it twice and then closed it. I didn't say anything. A few months later, everything came out in the open, and things calmed down. Life felt weirdly quiet, but in a pleasant way. I recreated my daily habits, kept to my training schedule, and worked hard. I wasn't in a hurry to do anything. I didn't want to get caught up in drama or do things over and over again. I met Maya at a tech security conference in Bellevue. She was in charge of risk assessments at a company that did healthcare analytics. We ended up seated next to each other in a workshop, and we both took notes far more seriously than everyone else. We talked about places to hike in Seattle during a break. Then we both remembered that we had done the same path the weekend before, just on separate days and in the same part. She spoke in a style that was easy to understand and made sense. No show, no secret plan, just a simple talk. At the end of the day, we exchanged contact information. Two people that enjoy to converse, nothing flirtatious or charged. We met for coffee a few times before work during the next few weeks. In the end, we went on a real hike together. It was peaceful, easy, and no games. I told her right away that I had broken off an engagement. I told the brief version. There were no dramatic details. Simply that the breakup was manipulative and that I wasn't in a hurry to find someone new. She nodded and added, "Thanks for telling me. We can go slow." She didn't ask any more questions. She didn't make it a therapy session. She just stayed within the lines. That alone made me realize how different things may be. We took our time getting to know each other over the next 2 months. Not in a showy way, but by adding routines that felt right. She would sometimes go for a stroll with me on Sunday. I would go with her to a weekend volunteering event where a group built ramps for people with disabilities to use outside. She enjoyed plans, but she didn't require everything to be planned out. She didn't put us next to other couples. She didn't employ testing or stress. She didn't need to fight to feel important. In the best manner, it was normal. A calmness that I didn't know I needed. But Camille finally found out. I don't know who told her. Someone from work, maybe. She might have seen anything online, even though I didn't post much. Either way, one morning I opened my inbox and saw 3 messages from fake accounts. Similar style of writing, similar ups and downs in emotions. First, "You're already dating after all the things I tried to solve." Second, "She doesn't know who you are." Third, the longest, "You'll regret it if you marry her." Sienna says that name should never be changed again. Camille kept quoting Sienna like she was an expert even after the group fell apart. I didn't answer any of it. I also didn't block the accounts soon away. I wanted a record of the trail. I blocked all 3 for a bit after I took screenshots. That was it. Then there was the last ambush, which I remember distinctly because it felt so strange. One of our friends was getting married. He asked both Mia and me to come. He also asked Camille to come because he had known her before me. I thought about not going, but Mia said, "If you're okay with going, I'm okay with going." So we went. The ceremony went off without a hitch. The place was peaceful, and for the first hour, everything was fine. Maya spoke to some folks. I talked to some of my coworkers. I assumed Camille might stay away from us or be polite, but she came over to us while we were standing by the outdoor heaters. She looked exhausted. Her hair was a little messy, and her makeup was smeared at the corners like she had to put it on quickly. She stopped a few steps away and asked, "Noah, can we talk alone?" Maya moved closer to me, not to be possessive but to support me, and added, "If you want, I can give you space." I told her she didn't need to go. I turned at Camille and asked, "What do you need?" She looked at Maya and then back at me. "You really replaced me," she murmured, her voice quivering. "Just like that?" "This isn't the place," I said. "Let's not do this here." She ignored it and stepped closer. "You weren't supposed to move on. Not like this. I was trying to fix things. And you?" She gestured at Maya. "You don't even know what he's done." Maya stayed calm. "I don't think this is the right moment for this conversation." That made Camille snap. She raised her voice. "You don't get to talk to me. You don't even know the history. He left me when I was hurting. He made me look insane." People around us started turning. Someone near the bar pulled out their phone and started recording. Camille noticed and spun toward them. "Stop recording me." Seriously. The person didn't stop. They weren't even trying to hide it. Camille's voice cracked into yelling. She started cursing at me, at Maya, at the guy filming. She stumbled into a table, knocking over plates. A few guests gasped. Someone called for venue staff. Per the venue's event policy, security came over within a minute. They tried calming her down, but she kept yelling that nobody understood, that everyone was against her, that I had poisoned her life. Finally, they guided her out through a side door. She struggled for a second, then let them pull her outside. The recording spread fast, not viral, but enough that people in our circle saw it. It wasn't funny. It wasn't satisfying. It was just sad. After she was gone, Maya squeezed my hand and said, "I'm sorry she's going through something like that. Not jealous. Not angry, just empathetic." Another reminder of how different my life had become. We stayed for the rest of the reception, talking and laughing with friends. The chaos didn't follow us. It stayed outside with Camille and whatever she was still holding on to. When the night ended and we walked to the car, I felt an odd combination of closure and calm. Not triumph, not revenge, just clarity. Camille had built her idea of love around chasing, around proving, around dramatic tests. She thought the measure of commitment was how broken someone became when pushed. I learned something different. Love isn't about pressure or desperation. It's about trust. About someone choosing you without needing to tear you apart first. I didn't pick revenge. I picked peace. Guys, we are so close to hit 1,000 subscribers on this channel. If you are not subscribed to the channel, please consider subscribing. It really helps hit that 1,000 mark. Thanks for making this dream come.